Should we go to this meeting?
Yeah. Let me just get a snack first.
Snack? I brought a snack.
Oh, that's okay. I'm good.
Oh, no. I got this. Told you I brought a snack.
There's a better way to eat pickles on the go. Sucker Punch, the snack with a snap.
Look at the number of participants who had a shot at this, who wanted to be one of 12 of 60-something thousand. I mean, that's impressive in and of itself. What a diverse group of drivers, what a diverse group of participants. Just really cool. They should all be very, very proud.
Players around 4 platforms. I mean, I'm lucky to be here.
We about to change the game. We out here taking names. Let our voices rise. Let them reach the skies. We about to change the game. We out here taking names. Let our voices rise. Let them reach the skies. Hickory, dog, giving them Mr. Determined. Right in the storm, but focus on rainbow connections like Kermit. The water on my shoulders, it was a burden. Now I don't notice it, everything turning, everything shifting, doing it different. I'm floating, I'm drifting. Shout out the slums, round the world we uplifted, doing it big. We about to change the game. We out here taking names. Let our voices rise. Let them reach the skies. We about to change the game. We out here.
Every one of them deserves to be there, celebrating the fact that they were here and a part of this very first ever Prodigy Week for Racing Prodigy, and what a 3 days it was.
And here we go, they're gonna spray it, and let's see if they've learned how to spray the champagne.
We are 43 days away from the sun shining at the Atlanta Motorsports Park and Prodigy Week kicking off. And today, one final driver will earn their ticket to Prodigy Week on track at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course in round 3 of the Prodigy Racing League Mazda MX-5 Cup Golden Ticket Series on RaceRoom, powered by SuckerPunch. Hello everyone, delighted you can join us once again. Our Junior Kanky Party here with you on a very special Sunday. It's going to be exciting to see how the drivers all go racing with high stakes and high intensity for them all to deal with. Joey Tebben unfortunately decided too much intensity. He's enjoying an Easter Sunday with his family, so instead we are delighted to welcome in Dara Thacker to the commentary booth. And Dara, you've commentated on plenty of MX-5 racing on RaceRoom. You know just how great the racing can be, but now we add the extra stakes onto the mix, and we give the drivers the opportunity to make their step onto the eat-a-real pipeline.
Yeah, we've had many MX-5 races, 2 championships in RaceRoom ranked events of late in the last 6-7 months or so. So lots of practice, lots of ability that these drivers have in these cars. They've used them quite a bit, but they all are fighting over that important pass to the Atlanta Motorsports Park.
I can get my words from out underneath me, I think, eventually. Let's go take a look at the format. If you're new to what we are here for in this Golden Ticket Series on RaceRoom, it all starts with time attack qualifiers, and top 48 advance to the semi-finals, and then from there, we whittle them down into 2 races, 24 in each. The top 12 will advance. We have the Prodigy Zipper to talk about as well slightly later on, and later today, 24 drivers battle in the final. And of course, we've already seen 2 drivers punch their ticket through these round finals, and 1 driver we are delighted to be able to announce has already joined them now as the overall champion in this MX-5 Golden Ticket Series. Michael Romanidis is going to be watching on and wondering, Dara, who's going to be able to win out on track before we then find 2 more drivers to be selected by the Prodigy Cert Selection Committee.
Yeah, and there's lots of different drivers that are going to be hoping to take that title this evening. I mean, there's lots of these guys that have pedigree. There's a lot of these guys who know how to race each other and have raced each other very closely in these MX-5 cars, particularly around mid-Ohio just a few months ago. And a lot of big names still left in this race, so it's going to be difficult just to pick the one from the 48 we have in the field.
And don't forget that if you are part of the top 25% of the championship, there's still a couple of days left to submit your resume video to the Prodigy Cert Selection Committee. Make sure you check your emails for more information about that. But so many people make all of this possible. It's time to thank those that are bringing us along for the journey on our way to Prodigy Week Part 2. This coverage is brought to you by SuckerPunch, all-natural pickle juice shooters for clean hydration, pickle chip pouches perfect for those long sim racing sessions or days at the track, and the Jared Pickles with knockout flavor, the true champ of chomp, now available in the US. Mazda Motorsports has partnered with Racing Prodigy to continue its mission of supporting race car drivers, enriching lives, and developing the next prodigies. Mazda is supporting participants by providing $2,500 in coaching vouchers for Racing Prodigy Coaching Marketplace. Aztec Wheelbases with their revolutionary quick-release system allows you to easily switch wheels with just a click. SimLab P1X Pro Sim Racing cockpits with unparalleled rigidity, functionality, and design are your perfect sim racing base. And Advanced Sim Racing, owned and operated by passionate sim racers, Advanced Sim Racing is the fastest growing North American sim racing chassis manufacturer and equipment retailer. And all of those partners have also provided some very intriguing prizes to our participants, and we'll talk more about that in a few moments' time. But as we watch the drivers out on track for qualifying, let's talk a little bit about the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, because it's tight and twisty and undulating, and I think one of the most underrated tracks in all of North America.
Yeah, it's a fun place to go racing, isn't it? A track where overtaking can be a little bit tricky. Side-by-side action, though, when you get it, it can be absolutely exhilarating. All the way through the S's, through Thunder Valley as well. You can fit 2 MX-5 side-by-side, maybe even 3 if these drivers are brave. But some of the guys who may not have a fantastic qualifying session, they're going to have to work their way forward pretty quickly because they have to make that cut for the final. And then in the final, no real room for errors, I should say, to try and get that Prodigy Pass.
Yeah, we've got about 7 minutes left in this session. Time's beginning to trickle on in. And one thing that, Dara, you had kind of instantly said when we had started chatting just before we got underway here today was you kind of were looking through the field. A couple of drivers stand out for you, but one standout in particular. You think Philip Drace, after unfortunate disqualification issues with too many contact points last time at Brands Hatch, you think he'll be one to watch here today?
Yeah, I mean, he's the 2-time reigning champion of the MX-5 Cup on RaceRoom ranked events. He has really been consistent all the way through those 2 seasons. And when it came to Mid-Ohio just a few months ago, he was the driver that stuck it on pole. One race won very comfortably. And although he struggled in the reverse grid races in 2 and 3, he showed some fantastic pace and fantastic ability to get moves done. And I'm sure that he's going to be right up there this evening, and definitely one we're going to have to watch for the Prodigy Pass later on.
Can see him chuck the car in through the corners. Now, we mentioned the Prodigy Zipper. Now, top 12 advance to the final, but which position you finish in determines which row you'll start on in the final. Which side of the row depends on your fastest race lap, so there is a little bit of importance to going fast in the race itself. Now, Philip Drace to 3rd, but it's Enzo Filipao that's gone to the top with a 1:37.898, and 3 drivers split by just under 0.06 of a second right now, with still plenty of time left to improve.
Yeah, it's tight, isn't it? There's really not much to separate these guys, and if they're going to be racing that close all the way through the race, it's going to lead to some fantastic racing action. Enzo Filippo, another driver who we've got to watch out for. He has been fantastic in lots of different forms of motorsport, in different cars and different categories, all the way through RaceRoom over the last year particularly. So definitely another driver to look out for, and we'll have to see if he can put it up near the front. But I mean, with those times so close, you really wouldn't want to put any money on who's going to get pole at the moment.
No, and I also think pole, not sure how important it's necessarily going to be here. It might actually be quite important when it comes to track position later on today. That's the bright blue machine of Nico Sono. Now, we have 48 drivers, of course, that have qualified for the semi-finals. Just shout out that we've got 14 new drivers that haven't competed in either of our first 2 round semi-finals. 34, though, do return, so interesting to see how many of them, of course, have been able to stick with us. 12 of those drivers have reached 2 finals so far, and we'll be looking to try and convert and, of course, join Nikodem Wisniewski and Kamil Pawlowski in already winning their Prodigy passes out of this. And while this is the final event in the RaceRoom Mazda MX-5 Cup Golden Ticket Series, do not forget, you can expect additional series coming up after Prodigy Week Part 2, hopefully. You will want to get your Racing Prodigy membership with your RaceRoom Game Pass, available on racingprodigy.com and available for all PRL events on RaceRoom for just $14.99. Look how much they're throwing the cars, though, around. It's always great to see how much these Mazdas can really be chucked around.
Yeah, they're a nice little car to drive, aren't they? So I think these times, they're so close. You can see by the sector splits just about in the bottom right-hand corner of the feed that the times are close. There really isn't much separating these guys, and it really could come down to the final run. Of course, on RaceRoom, when the timer hits 0, that is the end of the session. You cannot finish the lap you're on, so they're going to have to get the times in relatively soon. But they've still got a couple of laps, I think, where they can probably try and stick it as far up the front as they can.
Here's Nico Sono, one of those drivers that has actually finished up there in both of the finals so far. Now, finished second in semi-final 1 behind Philip Drace at Brands Hatch, and so going to be interesting to see how all of the form kind of rolls on forward. We do kind of expect, though, I guess, right, that because top 12 advances, Nico resets back to the start to go for another lap. If the top 5 or 6 are, breaking away from those behind, they're not necessarily going to force the issue, are they? They're going to enjoy the separation and the comfort they have in securing a spot in the final.
Yeah, I think the real racing we're going to be seeing is that cut-off period, the 12th, 13th, 14th, those guys that are really fighting hard for those spots in the final. That's where we're going to see a lot of the action, particularly in this semi-final. The guys at the front, they don't really want to make a big mistake. They don't want to get themselves maybe a further row up on the grid for the final if it might cost them a place in the final entirely, if it's an ambitious move towards the end of the race. So those guys, the likes of Orbitał, currently down in P12, I mean, when he starts the race just behind his fellow countryman David Nemček as it stands, those guys really won't want to be losing too much ground, and they're going to fight really hard for those positions.
And you definitely don't want to have to work up from the back of the field. I'm just looking through. Don't see too many of the contenders that maybe you would have thought in this first semi-final with no real representative time on the board just yet. Lots of wheel input there from Mihai Neg, but just keeping the wheel very, very steady, not trying to force the car too much. And maybe that is sometimes a good thing. You go back to the old days of Top Gear where they get those celebrities into the reasonably priced car. What do they say? Smooth as fast. I'm going to assume something similar is probably true here as well. Grass is not fast, though, I can tell you that.
Yeah, no, and taking a very nice line, I think, as we might see through Gambon from some of those celebrities. But oh, look at Sonal really soaring at the steering wheel there as he bounces his way down towards Thunder Valley. It doesn't look like this might be an improvement, but I don't think he's going to have enough time to get to the line and then set another flying lap. So I think this is going to be it for the German, and second row might be his cap.
Yeah, you're right. Time's ticking away, and he will try and improve. As, of course, Philip Drace, Enzo Filippo currently sit 1 and 2. He's got to find 87 thousandths of a second. Doesn't look like he's too thrilled with the lap time, and he stays where he is. Here comes Drace, though. He will get the chance to improve as he runs his way down the back straightaway. This is where they actually start races in real-life racing to give the drivers a little less chaos. I'm not sure if we're going to start our race there, though. Dara, are you 100% sure?
From experience, I believe we're starting on where the pit lane is. So
Chaos, love it.
But it may have, yeah, absolute chaos. So there's not going to be much room for these guys to really start fighting before we get into turn 2, turn 3, and the long run down where we might see some overtaking these. I noticed actually on the timing tower, just as we see Dries about to come to the line, Vleitstra puts it up into P2, the Dutchman, not far behind Enzo Filippo. So there's some of these names that, putting it right up there in 13 thousandths. I mean, over a 20-minute race, that's going to be nothing.
And we didn't see Stan in our second round at Brands Hatch, but he was there in the final at Road America, so great to see him back. Here comes the SCCA machine, though. I think Drace has just ran out of time, though, because those results have popped up on our screen. And so Enzo Filippo, second at Road America, behind Nikodem Wisniewski, will be at the start of semi-final 1, alongside Stan Vleetstra in that machine alongside. Philip Drace and then Nico Sonal will line up behind, and then Turka Hakkinen will hope to work with his Need Racing counterpart Drace, Mihai Neg, Phil Cravey, and then Mihai Geisler as well. Brandon Hawking and Sven de Vries round out your top 10. Radoslav Orbital, David Nemchek, and then Fernek Pasta. That's really in the danger zone, if you will, right around the cutoff. And then Nikolai Hell, Torben van Luke, Jake Douglas, Oliver Brent Face, Elias Romstedt, Nicholas Rayfit, Colin Flynn, Justin Ledsam, and I just missed out on that final name before it disappeared from my screen. I think that was Thomas Leopold. 23 drivers with times on the board. And now a couple of minutes for them to flip the switch, to go from qualifying mode to get ready to go racing. And let's be real, it's a switch that you've got to flick in terms of understanding how to now battle out on track. We're going to see 20-minute races, not much time to get things done.
Yeah, not much time to recover if something goes wrong early on in the race as well. So that's going to be key for all of these guys, particularly the guys at the front. The top 7 in that qualifying session was split by just about a quarter of a second. The rest a little bit further back, but about the same gap between 1st and 7th as there was between 7th and 8th. So those top 7 absolutely going to be trying to make sure that they get their way through to the final relatively easily. The guys behind Optal, Nemchek, 11th and 12th starting in this race, they're going to be looking behind them in their mirrors because they don't want to lose ground early on.
And I look at the drivers that we've already seen win their Prodigy passes on RaceRoom. Michael Romanidis has earned it by winning the overall championship in this RaceRoom Mazda MX-5 Cup Golden Ticket Series, taking top position in all 3 rounds of the leaderboards building up to these end-of-week events. And, of course, the 2 Polish drivers, Nikodem Wisniewski and Kamil Pawlowski, all come from very serious esports backgrounds. So it's going to be interesting to see how today gets along. Are we going to see another top-level esports driver make their name known, or will we see someone else stand up tall? And again, we'll just remind you that we're getting closer and closer to our Prodigy Search Selection Committee shows. You could potentially win one of 2 of those Search Selection Committee Prodigy passes if you're in the top 25% of points, and you'll be able to join us for all of that in a couple of weeks' time here on the Racing Prodigy YouTube channel. Expectations, though, then, as we get ready to go.
Yeah, I mean, for those passes for the selection committee, some of these guys, they may not be winning the races, but they absolutely have some fantastic pace. So they will be very much putting in a case for them to get those passes. And who's to say that they won't get them? So lots of these guys, even if they don't win, they have that chance just by finishing as high as they can, putting in that good performance, and really showing the selection committee what they can do.
And of course, we've got some world-class judges that will be helping us figure all of that out. So do make sure you stay tuned on social media to find out all of who will be joining us. The drivers get around 50-odd seconds before we go racing, and the final chance for them to steal their nerves. Top 12 advance, and of course the Prodigy Zipper will then dictate where they line up come the main event. This is only 20 minutes. That main event, the final 30 minutes of racing. Not much longer, but a bit of a chance for the drivers that are inside of the top 12 to get some experience of how the car is going to develop moving into that final.
Yeah, exactly, and that's what they're going to be looking for, because of course you're not really going to be fighting too hard tooth and nail for those leading positions in this semi-final, because you're really just going to make sure you get through to the final, just adapting the car, seeing how it changes, and trying to really adjust accordingly is going to be great experience for them going into that 30-minute final if they can get there. But of course, the races that we've had before, particularly on RaceRoom in those ranked events with all of these guys, might show us some great racing still.
You can see the drivers now just waiting for the lights to build. 20 minutes on the clock. 12 drivers advance with one more Prodigy Pass on the line here in the Prodigy Racing League Mazda MX-5 Cup Golden Ticket Series on RaceRoom, powered by SuckerPunch. We're underway, and I don't know if it was a great jump from the front of the field, because instantly we're maybe 3 wide into the opening corner, backing out on the outside in the bright red machine. Vlietstra takes the point, Drace in second, and now Nico Sonal and Enzo Filippo fighting behind them on the run up towards the keyhole. This is such an important corner as well to get a good exit, because then it's a long run down into China Beach and some aggression, some contact, and Drace in the SCCA car will take the lead on the run off the corner.
An important start for Philip Dries to get away early on, but Enzo Filippo not the best of starts. I thought there might be a little bit more contact there through the keyhole, but they were 2 by 2 through there. But look at the draft that we're sitting into. Dries is going to be looking all over his mirrors, looking to defend the inside as they run their way down towards turn 4 now, with Vlietstra looking to the outside line, maybe, not really. He's going to sit on the slipstream as Enzo Filippo, he's going to dance around the outside if he can pick up P2 once again.
He really just got swarmed on that start, didn't get the jump, and I think he wants to get back forward sooner rather than later. Now around the outside as they dance out of turn 6, the run to the S is where you do, I think, eventually want to get single filed out. Now Turkka Häkkinen kept his nose in there and forced his way on through, mounts the curb and bullies his way forward to third. Another position lost, and behind, Vil Cravy's going to have a lunge on Nico Sonal. Great opportunistic racing, but it's costing them time, and your race leader trying to check away as we come up to the final couple of corners.
Dries is loving all of this behind him. Mihai Nej, that's the spin. He's been, I don't know if he was tapped around, but he's back on the racing line. Is everyone going to avoid him? No, they're not. There's one driver going around. Oh, no, that's so unfortunate to see Mihai Nej just spin around there. That might be his chances over. I believe it was Jake Douglas who caused contact in the Romanian driver. It's an awful opening lap for him.
Well, I will have to try and see now exactly what that does in the fight for the top 12, because I think Torben van Luke's taken 12th, Oliver Burt sits behind, and they're very much in close pursuit with one another. But we ride on the nose of Turkka Häkkinen, who finished down the back of the final at Road America, finished third at Brands Hatch, and will be looking just to continue to work his way up through the field, but now has got to try get slightly closer to his teammate up front. You can see the margin that slightly opened up with all the fighting, all the chaos on the opening lap.
And Turkka Häkkinen himself, even though Philip Dries won that most recent title in the MX-5 RaceRoom Ranked Championship, Turkka Häkkinen came second. So he is absolutely a driver to watch. And as you mentioned, P3 last week, he's going to be desperate to try and make up for that. A couple more positions to get him that Prodigy Pass, to get him to the Atlanta Motorsports Park. But as it is, he's currently a little further back from the top 2. But Enzo Filippo, he's going to be keeping him very honest in the early stages here. But after that first lap, the chaos, you could say, that we saw in the opening lap, it seems to have settled down a little bit at the front, and we'll have to see if that can continue.
So 2 DNFs, it would seem, for Jake Douglas and Nikolai Hell, but Mihai Nej is still down the back after losing the most positions so far today. There's a look at Vil Cravy, who made a really good pass on Nico Sonal in that bright blue machine that sits behind, but at least right now we're seeing the racecraft on display, and that's what Prodigy Week is kind of about, sussing out the abilities of the drivers, both behind the wheel of the race car, but then also mentally, physically. What are they going to be like in the media? And I still think back to day 1 of our first Prodigy Week last year when we went karting, and we saw some really, really great racing on what is a fantastic karting track at the Atlanta Motorsports Park. As much as these drivers know, though, that, you know, they're close to one another, it's kind of what we were saying before. They won't probably force the issue too much. It's down to that battle for 12th, Dara, where potentially drivers are going to be a little bit more aggressive here with still 16 minutes to run.
Yeah, and with Van Luke down in P12, he's gained a few positions off the start, you can see, but Oliver Byrne is not going to let him get too far away. I think there's only a few tenths in it here, but this is the real battle. You were talking about the zipper before. This is where the cutoff is. P12, you're going to the final. You have a chance at winning that pass. P13, you can pack up because you're not going to be coming back this evening. So we'll have to see how these guys do. You can see the Belgian driver Van Luke there concentrating as he wakes his way down into turn 4. And it's really these situations, drivers down in P12, P13, where the pressure is highest, and we're really going to see how they perform under this pressure.
Yeah, I like what you're saying as well, right? Because you're right. This is where they know they're fighting for survival here, to be in contention, and so you've really got to make the right choices at the right time, and we've seen some drivers be able to fight their way from the back of the final starting grid, but never really to contention at the front. So at the same time, those further forward have to think about that as well. Now, Brandon Hawkin trying to go the long way around on Michi Geisler. He's able to get it done in the MPI machine, the Movano Corsa driver. Now, one that we've seen compete across the Prodigy Racing League tournaments on iRacing, R-Factor 2, on RaceRoom as well. And that's something else that I guess the selection committee would probably look at, Dara, is the fact that, you know, Brandon can go jump across the sims, be quick, and also jump in across a multitude of different cars.
Yeah, you could be a triple threat, can't you, in all three of those different sim rigs, different abilities, different physics ever so slightly between them as well. So to be able to swap from one to the other and it'll be almost seamless is fantastic to see. We can see actually Brandon Hawking through his steering wheel there, which is a very cool angle to see with the Canadian driver currently in P7. He doesn't look too keen to get through here, but as I say that, on the back of Sonal, he does look like he has a good slipstream down towards turn 4. Will he go inside? Will he go outside? Will he just stick in behind? I think he's going to try and force the issue. Go for a move here, and he will, sending it to the inside, but he's not quite got enough on the brakes, and he'll stick in P7 for the time being. But, you know, battles up and down the field, and here with Van Luke.
It's an opportunity to finally see the transfer spot switch hands. You can see behind just plotting out what they want to do. Radislav Orbital sees Oliver Burnt grab 12th momentarily, but now has to give up 13th as well. 14th will slip potentially his way. This is great racecraft, but it's losing them time from those in front, and that's crucial time most importantly, because they're very much being separated, and only 12th now at play as they continue to be side by side on the run up through Thunder Valley.
Yeah, Norbital's going to really want to get this move done very quickly because Torben Van Luke is absolutely loving seeing this behind him. He is being able to get away just that little bit more, but Orbital now back up into 13th. He qualified in P11, so not the best of starts, but he has that pace in his MX-5. We'll have to see if he can work his way back up into that top 12. You can see losing a couple of positions. The only driver between 9th and 18th to be losing positions off of that start, of course, with Nej falling all the way back through the field at the end of that opening lap. But it's people like Orbital who feel like they should be in that top 12, especially with a couple of the drivers that qualified in front of them now right at the back. He's really going to be key to get through, and I don't think Van Luke's going to enjoy having Orbital behind him.
Yeah, and I think, by the way, we'll keep most of our attention probably switching back and forth between front and back, because they're going to just chop and change in terms of where the action's going to be. There's Enzo Filipao that sees a defensive look from Vlistra. Hakkinen's going to try and force his way on through because they are starting to lose your race leader. Oh, now a chance for the SuckerPunch car to make its way around, long way around the top of the hill. It's going to run out of momentum surely and now defend from behind as Vil Cravey gets to the outside. This is what Mazda MX-5s are all about, getting your elbows out as well and holding on to spots. Ultimately, these drivers are all trying to experiment as well, right? As long as they don't fall outside of the top 12, they're learning about what they will need to do come the final.
Yeah, but there's always that added risk. We saw it with Mihai Nej. Just that one little moment can send you right to the back of the field and really could end your hopes of the final whilst you're very comfortably sitting in a final position. But Enzo Filippo, the French driver, who, like I said before, has such good pedigree on the RaceRoom platform in all different forms of cars. He's won multiple ranked events and a ranked championship last season in the KTM GTXs. So he is a driver that knows how to get it done, particularly amongst these guys. Turkka Hakkinen in P3. He's been racing with him many a time over the past year and more, and Philip Dreiss as well up front. These guys know each other inside and out, and so they kind of know what they're going to expect from each other, but this is where the pressure really stems because the winner takes it all.
And here comes maybe a 1-2 for Need Racing if Turkka Hakkinen the Finn can get to the inside. Now, on the exit, potentially a better run off the corner for the driver behind and getting into the draft as well. But over the inside line here for Turkka Hakkinen, and maybe he'll hold on as they head into the braking zone of turn number 4. Don't forget as well, racing is winding down on our way to Prodigy Week Part 2. Next week, we'll have the finals of the Racing Prodigy Mazda Spec MX-5 Golden Ticket Series, so come and join us for that one. But after that, not much really. It's all just about our Prodigy Search Selection Committee shows. Side by side, still great racecraft on display, and the SuckerPunch car down to 3rd, and then some contact off into the grass, and Vlies just going to have to try and get back onto track inside of the top 12.
And very luckily, though, for the Dutchman is that he was facing realistically the right way back onto the track and emerges in P11. So although that is contact, that is a sucker punch to his chances. is, yeah, he's still in that top 12, and he's still at the moment progressing to the final.
See the frustration there, and somehow Joey Tebben left the commentary booth, but we still have puns courtesy of our commentators, so it's inevitability here on RaceSpotTV as David Nemchek is now up to 8th position as a result of all of that, as we strike half race distance right around the time that your leading pack crosses the line, but I don't think it's going to be as close to what we had at Brands Hatch, where every single race it was a nail-biter as to whether we'd get an additional lap or not. In the final, it came down to 97 thousandths of a second. Now, it's all still in the battle for second, but this time Turkka Häkkinen defends from Enzo Filipao that lunges around the outside, running out of the keyhole.
And these two side by side again as they run off the corner, and Häkkinen really taking a defensive line, doesn't want to give up the inside line down into turn 4, and you're going to see Filippo right on his rear, really bump drafting him down towards turn 4. Is he going to pull out of the slipstream, or is he just going to sit and wait one more time? We've still got 9 minutes or so left of this race, but Filippo is going to try and look for the outside line, but nothing doing there. It's difficult to walk it around the outside, especially when Häkkinen in front has most of the car in front, but you can see the slide all the way through as they come now to the S's. But yeah, these guys are just trying to keep it on track. They don't want to make any big mistakes.
You see when they hit the curb as well, relatively unsettled there for a moment, but it's very defensive lines being run, costing them time, not just your race leader, but also in terms of their race lap times. Let's not forget the Prodigy Zipper is going to take the fastest race laps from each driver, compare it to the driver that finished in the same position in the other semi-final, and the driver with the faster lap time will have the better starting spot on that respective row. Now, they almost made contact out of that final corner, and I wonder if something's happened to Nico Sonal, because into the grass goes that bright blue machine, and down to 7th for the German.
Yeah, not the best for him, but Sonal, I mean, he's fallen away a little bit so far in this race, but he's still where he needs to be, of course. It won't be ideal, especially going forward to the final. He won't really want to be, you know, losing positions and coping with losing positions, because he wants to be moving forward. But just getting to the final, maybe a bit of a reset. These guys in semi-final 1 have some time before the final to try and get themselves sorted. But Enzo Filippo, he's still going for this move, and he's sticking to the outside line. But Häkkinen, he is doggedly defending the inside.
Yeah, and I'm just looking through, by the way, some of the drivers that are going to be in the contention come next week's iRacing Spec MX-5 Golden Ticket Series final. We have Brandon Hawking in the mix as well, Angelo Michel. There's a couple of drivers that we've seen here and there on RaceRoom, so they'll get another chance potentially after this one. So they maybe have that in their back pocket. No move made, though, in this fight for second, as back up in towards turn 5 they will run. You can just see continuing to bleed time to your leader. That gap now up to 3 full seconds. Inside of the fight, though, to qualify for the final Prodigy Pass on the line, still Torben van Luke that had 12th position, although just as I say that, Radoslav Orbitals grabbed it away from him, so we are starting to see that fight start to build for the 12th and final spot in the final.
Yeah, but of course, as we mentioned before, these guys, they're not really fighting for 11th. As Orbtown now drops to 14th, losing out to the Belgian of Van Loek once again. But with these guys, you know, far off of P11, they're fighting over one spot. It's like a relegation battle in the league, and you know, you might have 16th flying away, but it's 17th, 18th and 19th with only one team trying to survive. So this is what these guys are facing. They've got loads of guys behind, but they've got to be going forward, and Torben van Loek finishing P13 is the most horrible feeling when the driver who finished just in front of you is going to the final.
Relegation is a foreign concept in parts of the world, don't forget, so we're going to have to come up with another analogy for that, but I'm picking up what you are putting down, and you are 100% right. Ooh, business picking up at the front as well. Turkka Häkkinen's got the tongue out. That's how you know that sim racing business is picking up, and Filipao, I think, more now going to have to be defensive from Phil Cravey from behind in the Ballas Esports entry. Then you got, of course, Brandon Hawken and Mitchie Geisler all still in the mix. We've got 4-5 cars that could potentially be in 2nd, 3rd or 4th position come the end of this race with 6 minutes still left to go. I'm loving, though, the way that room is being left. And one thing that top-level drivers like Moritz Lohner have told me in the past, Dara, is that RaceRoom offers you some of the best wheel-to-wheel racing in sim racing. And I think we've seen that across of this Prodigy Racing League Mazda MX-5 Cup Golden Ticket Series on RaceRoom, powered by SuckerPunch.
Yeah, we really have, and these guys, they are fighting tooth and nail. They are the best drivers on the platform, and you can see why, because they're racing so close wheel to wheel, but they're not really making any little errors. They're giving room, and they're being incredibly respectful, which is fantastic to see at the moment. Brandon Hawkin, we're looking on board with once again. He has really flown up the order, up to P5 now, but don't rule out him getting into the top 3 is a little bit of a wide moment for Hakkinen in P2. But what these guys are doing, allowing Dries to get further away, they're just giving him that buffer zone. It shows how much pace he's got. It's going to worry them for the final, and it might even give Dries the opportunity to maybe back off a lap or two and then go for a fastest lap to try and put himself on pole for the final.
I'm just looking at some of the stats as well for Brandon Hawkin in the iRacing qualifiers. He's led 80% of the laps that he's run. Very different situation here on RaceRoom. That's the level of competition, though, that he's up against. Once again, wheel to wheel. This time, attempt to cut back underneath from the Frenchman, Enzo Filipao, as they run their way off the corner. And look at that. He's got the momentum. He's there as well. Now, they'll play some side drafting here. This is what they do in NASCAR, where they pull momentum off of the car in front by just leaning on it, disturbing the airflow, running over it. But you can just see it didn't work out on the outside. Turkka Hakkinen got a better exit, and a sequence that's starting to build the intensity from behind. Some sense being made as well. Brandon Hawkin the long way around on Vilcravy.
The move, if Brandon Hawkin can pull this one off, he's got the inside line for the second part of the S's, and I believe he's got it done, and he has indeed. What a move there from the Canadian driver, who's up 5 in this race, started P9 up to P4, and he is definitely going to be one to watch if he can make his way to the final. Only a few laps left in this semi-final one, but Hakkinen, he has by no means got this one done for P2, because these guys behind, they are charging hard, and they are charging fast, and Filippo, he is going to try every trick in the book to get this P2 off the finish, driver.
I think Brandon Hawkin's just relieved that he's having a less dramatic day than he did at Brands Hatch when he finished 12th to squeak his way into the final. He ended up finishing 15th, a sign of how difficult it is to fight your way from the back. He's looking focused, by the way. It's a good sign as well, and there's not too much stress. He's looking relaxed with everything that's happened. 3 and a bit minutes still left to go. Lap times, I think, therefore trending towards what should... Never trust a commentator's math. Should be 2 laps left to go.
Should be, but but we don't know. We'll find out when we get closer. We can work it out with smaller numbers, as is always the case, but we will see. Brandon Hawkin, though, he really wants this race to go on as long as possible, because he is flying at the moment, up to P3, and Turkka Hakkinen, he's got a little bit of a break this time around. Of course, Enzo Filippo not as on his tail, but Brandon Hawkin really looks like the driver who has been progressing well in race 1, really showing that he's got the pace. Maybe didn't have the best qualifying performance, but he's showing that he can race hard, and he can race well. And that will do him well, not just for this evening, but maybe for the selection committee to look at as well. But as we run through with the final lap and a half or so to go here, Filippo doesn't want to give up any more positions than he already has.
I think it's 2 laps to go this time by. I was 1 lap off. I was right with the math. I was just wrong when I said it. That's how we're going to frame it. Anyway, but we'll swiftly move on from that as they continue to fight. Not sure where Enzo Filippo, by the way, has lost some of this speed, because he definitely looked quite aggressive at the start. Darrell, with your experience here with these MX-5s, I've got to ask you, tire usage, tire wear, is that a factor? When we get to the 30-minute final, our driver is going to have to keep in mind that they can't force the issue too much, unless you're Brandon Hawkin, in which case you seemingly have the gift of magic tires.
Well, in the racing ranked events, particularly in the season 2, they were short, sharp races. I believe 15 minutes each. So they didn't really have that long on the tyres. It's difficult to say. I don't think the tyres go off too much, and these guys know exactly how to deal with them. You can see Oliver Burnt really trying to G himself up there to try and get himself into the top 12. He's just about holding off Van Loek for P12 as it stands, but the Belgian driver, he's held that P12 position for parts of this race. He'll be trying to get back inside, but as you mentioned, with the tyre wear and everything else to consider, it's really not over yet. It's outside line for Van Loek.
Your leader's heading off down towards China Beach right now, so it's not that big a margin actually to these drivers when you really think about how much fighting they've been doing. Left side, you can see second. The fight there continuing to rumble on. The Canadian Brandon Hawkin still stalking his prey right now. He's going to look to the outside on the run down, out into the S's. Not going to be totally alongside, but it's building. Right side of the screen, building into the braking zone as well. Oliver Burt holds on, but it'll be one lap to go next time by, and you feel that he looks quite comfortable with the pressure. There's a desperation move that's about to be thrown his way.
Yeah, and this is why we love MX5 racing. We've got a battle for P2, we've got a battle for P12, and they're both as important as each other. With just one more lap to go when they reach the line, Brandon Hawkin, if he can somehow push his way from, I believe, P9 on the grid all the way up to P2, would be a fantastic achievement for him, and it would really, I think, unsettle the guys at the front. The likes of Philip Dries, you can see at the front of the picture, far and away leading this one, but Brandon Hawkin, he's coming under pressure himself. One to go, though, in this semi-final one.
Can see side by side behind them as well. I believe that's Sven de Vries and David Nemchek, but really not a consequential battle right now as they run their way up towards the keyhole with the clock officially having struck 0. There's a look, a lunge maybe coming from Enzo Filipao. He looks to the inside of the MPI machine of Brandon Hawkin, but you can see the ramp off the corner here. Oh, Filipao slams the door shut on him. That's basically a slide job there thrown out of the corner.
He really said, "You're not coming back through, Brandon, and I will retake my P3." And he's got very few corners left, but he's still maybe got a chance to pick up Turkka Häkkinen. What a final lap it would be to go from 4th to 2nd. You can see them as they come down towards turn 4, 2 by 2 nearly. Oh, and there's a tap, there's a spin. And who is that going around? That, I think, is Vela Cravey. And he's got to make sure he stays in the top 12 now.
I think he'll be okay because he has enough time with these drivers still working their way to the braking zone. They'll be 3 wide as well in this fight for 12th position. Your leaders run away. We haven't had to talk about him much. Oliver Burt has dealt with this pressure very, very well. Half a lap still left to go for him to hold on to a spot in the final here in the Prodigy Racing League Mazda MX-5 Cup Golden Ticket Series on RaceRoom, powered by SuckerPunch. Take a bow, though. Philip Dries is going to waltz away at the front. He was unfortunately disqualified due to incidents at Brands Hatch, but dominance at Mid-Ohio in semi-final number 1. The swarm will come to the line behind with Turkka Häkkinen making it a need racing 1 and 2. What happens in the fight for 12th, though? It looks as though Oliver Burt will do just enough to hold on to that position as they come through the final corner.
And that will mean so much to Oliver Burt. One more corner to go, just get the car to the line. And the German driver flashing his lights. He's in the final, just about holding off the drivers behind. You could say he was absolutely nowhere compared to Ferenc Pasta in P11, but it doesn't matter. He's in the final, and that's going to be a big relief for him. You can see it on his face.
Oh, I love it as well. This is what we sometimes miss in sim racing, the emotion, and it's why we love being able to see it. Job's not done, though, and that's why you could see for your race winner in semi-final 1, takes the gloves off. Still a lot of work to do. Here's a look at those results, though, in 6 seconds, I think. A shows how quick your leader was, but also goes to show how much fighting there was behind. Turkka Häkkinen ends up 2nd, and Enzo Filipao actually ends up grabbing the fastest lap of the race. Brandon Hawkin 4th. Geisler ends up down in 5th with Nico Sonal, Sven de Vries, and then David Nemchek, along with Vela Cravey and Stan Vliestra, Ferenc Pasta, and then Oliver Burt. 12 drivers moving forward to our final later on today. Unfortunately, we say goodbye to Torben van Luke, Radoslav Orbital, Romstedt Flynn, Leopold Nej, Ledsum, Face, Refit, Douglas, and Hell. Although I think we may have a bit of an update on some of those drivers moving forward. Welcome, the Prodigy Racing League. And Dara, that was fantastic. And it's why I always say Mid-Ohio, one of the most underrated tracks in North America.
I mean, you get some fantastic racing. The MX-5s, they're made for this kind of racing. The track, not got too many straights. It's got some tight, twisty parts of the track, but we saw some great side-by-side action, some fantastic moves down the S's, and it really sets up a good show, I think, we're going to have for semi-final 2 and the final, but we're definitely looking at some of the drivers to beat, the likes of Philip Dries, who just drove away from the pack in that race.
Incredible, I think, as well, right? Because he did pull away before they even really started fighting, so it was down to him. It wasn't just down to all of that behind. Qualifying, though, I think we also did see it's possible to pass and to move your way forward. Don't know if you want to put yourself in a bit of a hole. And so semi-final 2's coming up next. We have the same qualifying session and then 20-minute race. Have you learned anything, Dara, about what you want to see from the drivers as they look to hold on to their spots inside of the top 12?
Well, we saw in this first semi-final that some of these guys are a little bit more conservative. Dries, I don't think really pushed too hard in the end. I mean, you'd expect him to get the fastest lap while others behind were fighting hard. So maybe just a little bit of a softer drive for him. But for the guys that are going to be right on that crossover, P12, P13, like we saw in that race, we're going to have to see them fight hard like we saw in race 1, because otherwise we're going to have to say bye-bye to them before the final. But once you're in the top 12, there's always a chance in the final. Anything can happen, especially the track like Mid-Ohio.
Let's see if we can have a quick chat with race winner in semi-final 1. Let's see if we got a copy with Philip Drace. Philip, do you hear us loud and clear first?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Got you loud and clear. Perfect. Wasn't sure about that, but let's talk about that. You kind of walked away at the front. Talk to us about how you feel about your speed here today.
It felt good. I mean, the start for me was very lucky to break away the toe, because the toe is so strong on these cars. And once you've broken the toe and the guys behind are fighting, yeah, it's lucky for the guy in front, I say. So, yeah, it's been good, but let's see what the second semi-final will bring.
I don't want to bring you to the bad memories of Brands Hatch, but let's talk about it very quickly, because there was some great racing, but unfortunately such good racing that you ended up getting disqualified for incident points. What are you expecting going into the final here with 30 minutes, and this time a little bit more leeway for the incident points?
Yes, I mean, it was quite unfortunate, I have to say, but it is what it is. I like that we have increased incident points now. I don't bank on relying on them, but as with these cars, it's just great fun to race them. A little bit of contact is quite nice with these cars. Therefore, I think, it's better for the racing overall to have a little bit more leeway, and then let's see what comes out of it. But I would expect a very similar scenario to last time, like a slipstream train, many cars in the mix, and let's see what happens.
Looking forward to it. One semi-final down, one semi-final still left to go, and Philip will be watching on and trying to figure out who will be joining him. Dara, of course, now qualifying for semi-final 2 already underway. Drivers have 2 minutes left in that session. Provisional pole currently sits with Jack Keithley, although Leandro Werler sits in second by 32 thousandths of a second. Look at the intensity on Keithley's face as he builds for what will be one of his final attempts in this qualifying session.
And if memory serves, a 37.7, which is the fastest time we've seen so far, I think is quicker than what we saw in the first qualifying session in semi-final 1. So Jack Keithley really setting the pace, the Williams Esports driver, hoping to put it on pole, hoping to emulate Philip Dries and pull away at the front for the 20-minute race and book himself a front row slot for the final. But a lot of these guys in behind, Leandro Werler, he's been right up there these last couple of races and events, so got to watch out for him and lots of the guys further back. I mean, on the crossover, the times are tight. The times are very close for these guys, and they don't really want to be giving up too much of an inch for these guys. But, you know, we're going to have to wait for the race to really see, because like we saw in semi-final 1, a lot can happen off the start.
And so I think Mateusz Tiszkiewicz has just gone up to third. He's a tenth of a second off, and now slightly further because Keithley does improve, although a shake of a head. I think he thought there was more time in it for him. Closing stages, though, of this session, because 50 seconds left. There's Leandro Werler. He's not going to find any more improvement. He's 49 thousandths off of pole. There's Martin Barner, one of those 12 drivers that we've seen across of both of our finals so far. He finished 4th back at Road America, ended up down in 12th at Brands Hatch, and he's got one more chance here. And I guess with some of these drivers, would they have been watching semi-final 1? Be kind of curious to see that as we'll take a quick look at semi-final 2 qualifying results. Jack Keithley, 49,000 clear of Leandro Werler, Mateusz Tiszkiewicz, and then Nathan Maxim and Martin Barner and Leonard Heidegger through your front 3 starting positions. And plenty of familiar names and one new one to us here in this Prodigy Racing League Mazda MX-5 Golden Ticket Series. Ferric Udoai, Angelo Michel, Thiago Mello, Ferdinand Coughlin, and then Melvin Brandt and Franek Sikorsky, your top 12. And then Nikolai Hell gets a chance in semi-final 2 after technical issues took him out of semi-final 1, along with the likes of Andreas Matarangas, Alvaro Lerga, Guilherme Blanc, Lucas Frolik, Marco Almeida, Max Muller, Gabriela De Palma, Ran Marino, Brian Hogue, and Jordan Thompson. Managed to get through all of those names before they disappeared from the screen in front of me. Any surprises for you there, Dara, in terms of qualifying results?
Not too much, actually. This semi-final, I think, compared to semi-final 1, this isn't as much of a race room grid in terms of these guys don't often do ranked events compared to the other session. I mean, I wrote down before the likes of Filippo, Nej, Dries, Hakkinen, Villacrevi, Orbital, Devin Imchek. They're names that we see regularly on the race room platform. But in semi-final 2, not many of these guys are really up there a lot. So Guillaume Blanc, he's going to start P16, but these guys, they're more somewhat of an unknown. They're coming to Race Room to try and qualify for this Prodigy, or get their Prodigy Pass to go to Atlanta Motorsports Park. But, I mean, Jack Heathley, a stunning lap time from him, a 0.7 in qualifying. That really sets him up well for the race.
And we know that Jack can do it across of all the platforms as well. You know, he's competed at so many top-level sim racing competitions across of so many platforms. Quick look at the commentators. Not to look at us for very long, just to remind you. Now available in the US. You get a variety. Get them in focus. Get me out of focus. That's what you want to see. Sucker Punch pickle shots, if that's what you would like. Or I also have here for your viewing pleasure or eating consumption pleasure, the classic kosher dill pickle pack. Pickle chips, and then over my shoulder I've got a supermarket. So what would you like, Dara? I've got more of the pickle chips, shot. I've got whatever you want.
You have the full range. I mean, you could get to the side of the street, sell everything you want, but those chips look good, don't they? Really. So you might have to ship some of them over to me. But yeah, it's fantastic stuff.
And you can see I'm already on my computer. I'm ready to go and order some more from the team over at SuckerPunch. So thank you for pickling me out, and looking forward to seeing what the Prodigy Week participants get fueled up from all of the great products available. Now, we can stop looking at us. We can start looking at the Mazda MX-5s once again, because they're out on track and they're ready to go racing. 20 minutes will be thrown onto the clock once more. Standing start's an interesting thing, and it did look as though a couple of the drivers didn't get the best of launch. There's a look, though, at Keithley from the front and some of the other drivers' final moments before they go racing.
Yeah, there's never too much stress, is there? Just checking your phone before we get racing. It's always a nice little moment just to make sure you haven't got any messages you need to reply to. You might get in trouble if you've not given someone a heads up that you won't be around for 20 minutes because you are in PRL semi-final 2 here at Mid-Ohio, trying to get to the final, trying to get that pass to get to Atlanta Motorsports Park. But, I mean, these guys, it's going to be important. We saw a great battle for P12 in race 1. Hopefully, we're going to see the same here in semi-final 2.
And drivers that have put laps down in 2 of the 3 rounds are eligible for some great prizes, but only one here today walks away with the Prodigy Pass. That comes up, though, in the final. 12 advanced to be able to compete with 20 minutes thrown onto the clock once more. And the second semi-final in round 3 of the Prodigy Racing League Mazda MX-5 Cup Golden Ticket Series on RaceRoom, powered by SuckerPunch, is underway. This time a much better start from pole position, as Jack Keithley will lead us through the long left-hander on the run up towards the keyhole. It's always great to see Mazda MX-5s leaning on one another, and that's what they do out of the opening corner and on the run up the hill. You can see Keithley's not too concerned about those behind. Werler, Tiskovic now side by side into the braking zone, a long send around the outside, and now cars jockeying for position, trying to get momentum on the run down the back straightaway.
Yeah, Keithley with the ideal start, not really getting involved in the cars behind us. Someone cuts across the grass there through the keyhole. That wasn't the ideal line, and I'm not too sure what put them there, but not the ideal start. But for Keithley, he is going to try and defend. Again, like we saw in race 1, defending the inside line. People don't really know where to go here, with Werler dropping a little bit further back. But inside line now for, I believe that is Werler himself trying to make his way up to P2, and I think he will, dancing around the outside. Can he get this one done? Yes, he can. Fantastic move from the Brazilian.
There was a bit of contact there, and now Tiskovic loses another spot out as Nathan Maximum forces his way on forward. Another one of those drivers that we've seen across of both of our finals, but for Nathan Maximum, hasn't always had the best of luck, has finished both of the finals outside of the top 20. Now, Tiskovic has to be concerned that maybe another driver, this time Martin Barno, will try and look around the outside. This is momentum-based racing at its finest. Behind them as well, going to be a look to the inside through the final corner, although door gets slammed shut. End of the opening lap. It's going to be 3 drivers within a second at the front, and then some gaps starting to build through the field as it's Jack Keithley from Leandro Werler, and then Tiskovic 1, 2, and 3.
Tiskovic not really wanting to lose too much ground. I think he's going to be trying to get back through on Nathan Maximin here as through turn 1. We go around the outside. Heidegger trying to find the move, and just in behind as well. They're all still fighting. Angelo Michel's in this battle as they run up towards the keyhole. Look at them all trying to find the line, trying to find where to go down to the keyhole. Different lines you can take down here, but there's only really one that's going to get you through, but you don't know before you get to the corner which one is going to suit best. Let's see on the exit though if anyone can get the run. I'm not too sure. It's too clear, but they're going to be too wide in the mid-pack.
Angelo Michel, one of those drivers again that's in the top 48 in our iRacing Mazda Spec MX-5 Golden Ticket Series, so we'll see him next week as well, get another shot out on track, but in a slightly different form of Mazda race car. Now, don't say we'll be 3 wide. No, we'll not, because they all thought a little bit better of it into the braking zone. Still side by side behind, though, as we filter up towards turn 5. Now, crucial battle for 12th in this one. Currently sees Andreas Matarangas with a second in front of him to Ferdinand Coughlin, and then Marco Almeida directly behind. So much like we had in the previous race, it might end up being a couple of drivers all fighting for just one spot in our final.
Yeah, and that can really lead to some exciting racing because you can't really go any further forward, but you're just trying to make sure that you don't go any further back. And Matarangas, you can see him there really trying to focus and getting the car soaring away at the steering wheel a bit. Doesn't look too comfortable in his MX-5 as he runs his way through the final couple of corners. It looked split second there, like Almeida was going to try and come up the inside. Sicorsi, I should say, sorry, is looking there as well, trying to find the line, because if these two come together, he's going to slip up the inside. It's something that we saw in race 1, and it can absolutely happen again in race 2.
You see the couch behind him now. I'm very glad to see there's no distractions for Andreas Matarangas today. I was commentating on a race last Sunday where the defending champion so locked into the task at hand that he had a couple of friends over, not just sitting behind him on the couch, but we could actually see them watching the broadcast on the TV next to the driver. Too many distractions for me personally, but I guess if you're that good, you can get away with it. Andreas Matarangas knows what's up for grabs here, what's on the line. A trip to the Atlanta Motorsports Park in around 40-odd days' time, May the 13th. Don't forget, join us here on the Racing Prodigy YouTube channel for all 3 days. Long days of coverage as well. And I'll give a preemptive shout out to the entire team that's going to make it happen, because the work, I'm sure, has already begun. Here's a Guillaume Blanc, by the way, at the very back of this train that's hunting down that 12th position, is running out slightly wide when Matarangas.
Yeah, he's not looking like he's, enjoying the pressure. I don't think anybody really enjoys too much pressure. If you do, then that's a very, very good trait to have, because if you can thrive in situations like this, that's what's going to get you into these finals. That's what's going to be able to get you a Prodigy Pass for the Atlanta Motorsports Park. But Matarangas, he is under pressure, isn't he? I mean, the 3 behind him, they are nose to tail. Any little error is going to put him maybe 1, 2, maybe even 3 positions further down the order, and then it is that much harder to get yourself back inside that top 12. So he's going to be feeling it at the moment, but the likes of Blanc, I mean, if there's little mistakes up here, we might see 2, 3 wide. He could maybe slip up a couple of positions himself.
Yep, you can see the group's not really being dropped off right now in the same way that we saw in semi-final 1, although Jack Heatley, Leandro Werler now do have about a second and a half to Nathan Maximum and the drivers behind. There are the 2 at the front, the Williams Esports driver in the white and green, I believe, SuckerPunch car, and then the red Mazda car for Leandro Werler. Back to 12th, though. Matarangas has to fend off, and half look, I'll say, from Marco Almeida. That was half-hearted. Didn't really force the issue like you can in these MX-5 machines. Look behind them. They're rubbing tours on the exit off the corner.
Yeah, Guillaume Blanc is really trying to force the issue himself as he tries to get his way up into P14, and I think he's just about got it as they run now down in towards turn 4. Matarangas, though, under pressure, overtaken is the Brazilian, but that happens. The driver spun around. Oh no, that's his fellow Brazilian of Thiago Melo, who was gone around at turn 4, and all of a sudden it means that even though Matarangas has lost the position to the guy he was fighting for P12, he's suddenly back into that final position.
Well, there's one more spot for them now to fight with, and more importantly, Thiago Melo, one of those drivers that we've seen plenty of support for in our chats over the course of the first 2 rounds, but he's also one of the 12 that has been a part of both of the finals. Don't think that's going to happen now. No way, unfortunately. That car's in the kitty litter, and surely outside of the top 20, his chances have come to a screeching halt. Back up towards the front, though, where Leandro Werler's putting that pressure on, and in the blink of an eye, it's amazing how quickly a race can change, isn't it, Dara?
Yeah, and that's what these guys have got to be adapting to, because like we saw with Matarangas, he was fighting to defend his P12 position to get into that final. All of a sudden, he's now in it. He can try and use Almeida to stay inside that top 12. Guillaume Blanc behind him has now only got the one car to overtake to put himself into a final position. Werler very easily calmed there, just having a sip of water as he goes down the straight, a luxury you can have in your sim rigs at home that you might not necessarily be able to have in a real life car if you've got yourself a pass.
You say that. I actually don't know if the Radical SR1s have a button that shoots water into your mouth, but lots of race cars do. So in some ways, it's actually easier for real race car drivers to get hydration. Let's just not talk about the quality of the hydration that they're getting, because if you ever go and search pictures of Formula One liquid bottles, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Now, this is the fight, though, all for third position behind Nathan Maxim. Look of focus on the face of Martin Barna, the Hungarian driver for Mirror Esports, who we've seen across again so many top-level sim racing competitions. And Martin Barna in particular, you know, one that I think is kind of looking for a bit of redemption after coming 12th in the final at Brands Hatch. He was 4th in the final at Road America. But somehow, I'm just looking at the field that we've got in store here today. Maybe it's not a surprise. Final chance on RaceRoom to win a Prodigy Pass. Dara, this is the strongest field I think we've ever had in a Prodigy Racing League event.
Absolutely. Some of the guys here this evening, I mean, they have been the top guys on this platform in these MX-5s over the past year. So we couldn't really have asked for much of a better field, and they're going tooth and nail. And you can win championships, you can win these little prizes that, I say little prizes, they'll make the driver feel good, but to have something tangible, have something like a pass and drive a real life car at the Atlanta Motorsports Park, it's that extra little prize that these drivers are going to be fighting over a little bit more. I think it's going to mean a little bit more to these guys if they can win the event. Martin Barna not pleased with something down at the keyhole, maybe a little bit of contact from behind, but as it is, still in P4, still trying to get onto the podium in this race.
Yeah, I'm surprised. There was definitely contact, but like, are we really getting irritated by minor contact with still 11 minutes to go when they're fighting further behind? I think the answer should be probably not. And here is some of the slipping and sliding, by the way. Leonard Heidegger, who was 24th and last at the final of Road America, 11th at Brands Hatch, slowly working his way forward through the field. You can see just how much elevation change you have to deal with here at Mid-Ohio, courtesy of that camera shot. Saw in chat, by the way, we had Craig Tough Monkey Laws jump in and join us. He is the first winner of 2024's Prodigy Racing League event on street kart racing, and he'll be joining us at the Atlanta Motorsports Park alongside Jai Fletcher, who won his Prodigy Pass also on street kart racing, an iOS app available on the Apple App Store. He downloaded it 9 days before, and 9 days later, he's a karter in the real world, but had figured out that game enough to be flying out in a couple of weeks' time. A pretty incredible story, and it does go to show that, Dara, there is speed to be found everywhere, and not just in these hardcore sims, sometimes by picking up an iPhone as well.
Exactly, and I think some of these guys, I mean, I was going to say, with many different ways to obtain a pass, with someone RaceRoom iRacing, the street car racing you were talking about, you don't really have to be a one-trick pony. You can try on different platforms, different kind of events to try and obtain yourself one of these passes, and it's great to see that there's lots of different forms of sim racing and esports coming into one for these guys to try and win that pass. Leandro Werler, he's been up there, hasn't he, in both races that we've had so far, both at Road America and at Brands Hatch, and you know, he's got used really to being at the front in these races, but he's just got to go that one step further this evening and try and take the win on the line.
I'm loving, by the way, just looking at the different faces and the setups. And it's always interesting when we jump to Angelo Michel, who I think enjoys racing so much that, Dara, he's had to strap himself into the rig with what does seem to be a proper 4-point harness there, which, I'll be honest, I was someone that moved around a lot in my rig. I didn't have motion or anything, but I was quite animated. I got on my pedals a lot, I had a lot of force feedback. Can totally understand why in the sim racing world you would want to do that, just to give yourself a little bit more stability. I guess that's the only word to use.
love to see him celebrate in that, just to see how much movement it gives him. Just to see if he can jump up a little bit if he somehow wins this event. As we're looking here, Ran Marino fighting away here for P13 and P14. This is some tight battling down here. That's I think that's Almeida fighting. He's dropped down to P14 behind Sikorsky, Guillaume Blanc and the rest. And Marino, he's now the driver chasing after P12, but there's a gap, isn't there, between 12th and 13th, that if these guys keep battling like this, they won't bridge.
Yep. You can see as well that they're so committed right now. They really don't want to give up, and I think they recognize that maybe at this point, time is slipping away from them. They need to be the one to make the effort happen, and they're going to hope just in front that they start to squabble side by side, but at the end of the day, there's no incentive for them to do so. Still going to be running off the corner wheel to wheel, almost in the grass there, and all of this happening as Max Müller and Andreas Matarangas join the fight as well, and that is a look of intensity. It goes to show exactly what this means to all those out there today.
Yeah, I don't want to put everything on it, but I don't think Ran Marino was happy there. And we'll have to see if he can try and please himself a little bit more with a move from P15. He's trying to go all the way around the outside at turn 4. It would become the inside line for 5, but he's not quite able to stick his nose up there. We're looking at Angelo Michel there because they are fighting further up. P3, 4, and 5 fighting away. I think actually that's Maximan, sorry, I should say, in P3, trying to fend off the rest of these guys, but they are looking for every position they can. 7 minutes left of this race. They might see that, they might be able to afford a little mistake and still get in the top 12, but they're willing to risk that little bit more to try and get themselves further up the grid in the final.
Yeah, and again, the Prodigy Zipper is the great equalizer, and say that one 5 times fast, by the way. It is very, very difficult. As much as I've been saying it, and Joey loves to bring it up as well, it's one of those things that it's hard to roll off the tongue nice and fluently, but it's just such a great thing for the racing because it incentivizes you to sometimes recognize that you've got to want the track position. And I think here in particular, being on the inside is an advantage because we know that the start can be a little bit chaotic, and Dara, when you're on the line that can control the jump just that little bit more, you usually end up with a bit of an advantage.
You can defend the line down into turn 2 and maybe into turn 4 because Turka Hakkinen do that in semi-final 1. So that's exactly, I think, what they're going to be looking for. As Angelo Michel, you can see still strapped in, looking up further in front as Maximin gets very close to the Polish driver Sikiewicz. So, I mean, these guys are fighting hard, and there's a little bit of a moment there as well, I think, for the driver in P7, which is Farouk I should say, sorry, the Moroccan driver trying to find his way through. But, I mean, this guy's... It's great to see so many tight battles in these semi-finals.
And great to see the international flair as well that we do always see out of the Prodigy Racing League events. Remember, we had more than 60... Oh, no, Ran Marino's in the grass and not going to be happy either. Oh, 60,000 participants for... the build-up to Prodigy Week Part 1, all whittled down to, of course, just the 12 that ended up getting to get out there onto the track, but that's frustrating for them. Let's go back up front, though, potentially, because as we get to those final 5 minutes of the race, not just with Nathan Maximin and Mateusz Tiszkiewicz, but I have to assume that with the margin that now Jack Keithley and Leandro Werle have, maybe we're going to see a look. Here's a move as well, into the keyhole. Werle thought about it, door gets slammed shut for him.
And I think Werle's now, look, he's waited long enough. He's waited 15 minutes, and Jack Keithley now is going to come under some pressure from the Brazilian driver who wants that front row start, wants maybe a pole position if he can get it for this race number, for the final, I should say, not race number 3. It is going to be the third race, but it's going to be the final, the main event. But these two, they're far and away ahead of the rest, but Werle isn't content with P2. He really wants this win.
Preview right now. This is like when you go and watch a movie, and this is the trailer before. We're getting a sneak peek of what we'll end up seeing for 30 full minutes, and still running their way off of the corner. Werle's thinking about it at every single opportunity. It's great to see. It's also shown that as much as he maybe has been bored for the previous 17 odd minutes or so, he's been watching and learning from Keithley where the strengths and weaknesses are of each of the drivers, and 2 top level drivers as well here. Williams Esports, Visceral Esports being represented up front. Battle for 12th. I think at this point, we can say with some confidence that Guillaume Blanc and Franek Sikorsky not fighting too much with one another, and so therefore those behind Max Muller, Andreas Matarangas not going to be allowed the opportunity to join us later on today.
Sound like you're tempting fate there, RG.
I'm trying.
Maybe these two might come together now, maybe create a race split for P12, but you're right. Sikorsky, he's looking for P11 though, around the outside. He's not content again himself with P12. Wants to give himself a buffer for that final, but not long left in this race. I think 3 more laps that we will have, or 2.5 if you're the leaders, but fighting still going on. It's not the longest race, is it? 20 minutes. But just to see racing like this nearly at the end of the race just shows how good these MX-5s can be for racing.
And, you know, I made the suggestion that for Prodigy Week, what we should do is part of what we did in Prodigy Week Part 1 as we threw the drivers into some BMWs for autocross. Let's throw them into some Mazdas and see what they can do instead, because look at how much they're wheeling these cars through China Beach. An attempted move once again from Whirler. Almost ran into the back bumper. Oh, great stuff being shown. And now imagine what's going to happen when we throw those drivers in that we saw from semi-final 1. I mean, it was Philip Dries that ran away at the very front in a similar sort of vein to what we're seeing here. But I'm being honest in saying that I feel that Turkka Häkkinen, much like with Nathan Maximum, even Mateusz Tiszkiewicz, could probably be at this pace as well if they weren't fighting as hard as they are.
And that's, I think, another point that we haven't really touched on. Philip Dries, yes, he showed a fantastic pace, drove away from the field. Didn't really race wheel to wheel in that race. These guys, particularly the likes of Verla, Keeley, they've now got that experience in semi-final 2. And even the likes of Turkka Häkkinen, he's spent 20 minutes racing on his wing mirrors. And so he's got that experience of defending. So they all have those little elements that they've, really excelled at so far this evening. But when it comes to the final, they might be challenged in a different way, and they're going to have to adapt. But we've got a lap, or just about 2 laps to go. Verla doesn't want to wait to the end. He's going to go to the inside at turn 2 at the keyhole. Can he make this one stick? It's going to be Keeley around the outside.
Oh, and he gets bullied out of contention. Bit of contact, and Keithley, I think, with a bit of a wry smile there for a moment. Not too fussed about it. Again, remember, all they're fighting about is who starts in the front row and who starts on the second row. It's as simple as that. They don't really need to take each other out of contention, although I'm sure Jack Keithley, the racer in him, is going to want to get back on top. He'll look to the outside, the long way around, not really the way I think you want to go, and even if you try and switch it back underneath, Whirler's just in a place where as much as he soars back and forward at the wheel, can just place his car where it needs to be, and with now 60 seconds left to go, Leandro Whirler takes the lead here in semi-final number 2.
And could it be a Dries Verla front row? That would set up a fantastic final here at Mid-Ohio. Even if Keeley gets through, it's going to be fantastic. Wide though from the Brazilian. Here comes Keeley back up the inside once again. They dive through Thunder Valley. It's going to be the outside line for the British driver if he can stick it all the way. They're just rubbing doors, but I think Verla's going to hold off for now. But these two, like you said before, even though they are only fighting over whether they start in the front row or the second row, they are not giving it up at all.
There was a shot to the bumper out of the final corner, and white flag will be in hand. 1 more lap to go here in this second semi-final, and I'm just loving that we don't have to do any complicated math to figure out if we're going to have a certain number of laps or not. Fight at the front will be close. I think that fight for third, though, we've been keeping an eye on it as well. Small inset shot on your screen. That's building 2. Not much in terms of fight for 11th and 12th positions. It's all at the front where drivers are now trying to learn, understand who they're fighting within that final, what they need to do, and one more time they'll shoot out of the keyhole on the run down to China Beach.
Last chance, you'd think, for Keeley to really pull alongside to try and make the move to get himself onto the front row, maybe on pole for the final. Look at the slipstream. He's right in the draft, and he is gaining all the way down this straight towards turn 4. There's no sip of water from Leandro Verla this time around because he is intense in this battle. Around the outside comes Keeley. Can he make this one stick? I think he's got most of the car in front. Verla's going to try and hold him off, but he's going to have back up the inside through the S's. They're just about rubbing doors there as they're still side by side. And racing between these two.
And drama behind as Nathan Maximum's dropped out of the top 5. Still wheel to wheel as they've plunged down out of the final sector. What a race this has been, and we're just building for where stakes are really up for intensity. Whirler and Keithley have put on a display, and a display that we'll be now waiting to see repeated in about 90-odd minutes time when we get to the end of our final in this Prodigy Racing League Mazda MX-5 Cup Golden Ticket Series on RaceRoom, powered by SuckerPunch. Whirler and Keithley, a golden ticket to the final after a great battle between the two of them. And now just waiting to see how things will go in the 30-minute longer affair. Behind them, Martin Barner's going to come across the line in third. What's going to end up happening in terms of the running order? Where do they all cycle out? Will there be any change? I think Nathan Maximin will hold on.
Yeah, Nathan Maximin, he did have that spin. It was some issue on that final lap, but he has got himself to stay in the top 12. We're looking at Ferdinand Coughlin now, who's in 12th position. He wasn't really in the fight for very long, but he's managed to sneak his way into the top 12. And Ferdinand Coughlin, the final driver into the final, and we have our 24 ready and set.
And, well, I don't think race control is too much to actually look at. We have seen some drivers get, unfortunately, yoinked from the main event, but I think you're right in knowing that 24 drivers now officially confirmed. Look at the results. Fastest lap and race winner going the way of the Visceral Esports driver Leandro Whirler, and then Jack Keithley, Martin Barner, Angelo Michel, and then Mateusz Tiskovic round out your top 5, all in dramatic fashion on the final lap. Farouk Uduai, and then Leonard Heidegger, Nathan Maximin, and then Brandt, Sikorsky, Blanc, and Coughlin. The rest of the 12 that make their way on forward, but we say goodbye, unfortunately, to Max Muller, to Ran Marino, to Matarangas, Almeida, Thompson, Hogue, to Thiago Mello, and then to those that don't even, unfortunately, get to see the finish. To the likes of Lucas Frolic, and fortunately as well for Alvaro Lurga, the 21 drivers that ended up seeing the green flag. So I'll look top to bottom then at those results, and now we know the 24, and we get a bit of a break, so we can step away for a brief moment here. We'll be back at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time. That's 7:30 p.m. UTC, if I've done the math correctly, with the clocks having moved forward a couple of weeks ago in the US. But what do you think the drivers, Dara, are going to go and do now? They have a couple of an hour or so to let the adrenaline dissipate from their body and to go out there and do it once again.
You've got to stay calm, I think, really, if you're one of those guys in the final. We saw in semi-final too, I think Keely and Verla were faster. They set faster lap times in that race than we saw Dries do. They may not know that, but it shows that there is that little bit of element of the unknown between the two semi-finals that we have. We're not too sure how it's going to work out, but I think, you know, just go and have a nice little break. Maybe have a sit on that sofa if you've got behind you, and see how it goes. But you just got to stay calm, because if you get, you know, a little bit too nervous, which I'm sure these guys won't do because they're very experienced, but you just got to keep it nice, calm and collected and see how it goes in the final, because anything can happen.
And I'll just remind everyone, if you are just joining us, that while we're down to those final 24 that can compete for the Prodigy Pass out on track here today on RaceRoom in this Golden Ticket Series Mazda MX-5 Cup car, you still have the chance, if you're in that top 25%, before Tuesday, to send your resume, your video resume, to the Prodigy Search Selection Committee. So make sure you do that. Check your email for more details about that. If you don't have an email, you think you're eligible, get in contact with the team behind the scenes, and you will be able to be part of that opportunity to win potentially still an additional couple of Prodigy passes on the line. 2 more from RaceRoom to come from that search selection show. So, of course, just waiting for that. I'm looking forward as well to seeing now how some of those drivers, like Brandon Hawkin in particular, Angelo Michel as well, who have shown us some speed, some intensity, some passing ability in semi-finals, Dara, to now go out there and do that in the final, because they know they've got another chance in a week's time if things don't go all according to plan today.
Yeah, I mean, the guys that work their way through the order well in the semi-finals, they're going to be thinking that they might be able to work their way through nicely in the final as well. Of course, they didn't really mix it up with the likes of Dries, Verla, and Keely as well. But you're right in saying that even if they don't come out on top, they have that chance with the selection committee. If they've impressed the selection committee enough, they're going to have a chance at that pass. And I think that gives yourself another little bit of a boost going into this final. You might not be at the front, you might be a little bit further back, maybe in the mid-teens, low teens, just about at the back of the field. If you can have a good race, work your way through, you're giving yourself a great shot at getting one of those passes.
Absolutely. I don't think, unfortunately, we're going to get the chance to talk to Leandro Whirler. He has run away and I think is, like we say, letting the adrenaline dissipate, letting the sweat be cleared off as well, and still 30 minutes of racing to lie ahead. But don't forget, we'll be back here 3:30 p.m. Eastern for the final in round 3 here of the Prodigy Racing League Mazda MX-5 Cup Golden Ticket Series on RaceRoom, powered by SuckerPunch. You should make sure you follow us on all the social media. That's where you'll be able to follow us along the journey to Prodigy Week Part 2 and all building up to May the 13th when we get underway with the drivers in their gym session. What a way for them to be really thrown right into the fire. We'll be back, though, for all of the action. See you in a couple of hours. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back here at Mid-Ohio.